My name's A.Michalowski. I'm the Planning and Regulation Special Projects Manager. I've been involved in developing the ED1 plan, and I'm also going to be working on the requirements and the submission for the ED2 plan. So what I'm interested in is building on the last question where 2/3 of the room said that you would like us to build a pool of commitments. This is all about understanding what are your priorities, what do you want us to focus on. When you look at how priorities have changed over time, they do change, and new priorities emerge. So when we look back at 2011-12, one at the bottom, it was one of our medium priorities, was about metal theft. But now metal theft is just something that we generally deal with, and we're thinking more about cyber security. So things change over time, and priorities change over time. But there are certain things that stay fairly constant. When you look at, on the left-hand side in 11-12, power cuts were high on the priority, and last year they still remained high on the priority list because that's one of our core activities that we deal with. So the aim of this session and the aim of the table discussions that follow is to carry out two exercises. The first one is to consider 14 different priority areas and then rank those as high, medium and low. And that could be as broad as are connections more important than network reliability, or do you think that customer service should be more important than network reliability? So that's going to be the first exercise that we carry out. And then once we've established the highest priorities at the table, what we will look at are the types of activities that you would want us to carry out under those priority areas. Now, over the years, we have built up a view of what these priority areas are. So what I'll take you through very quickly are the 14 priority areas and some of the suggestions as to the kind of things that we could be doing. The first one is network reliability. This deals with our day-to-day power cuts. And as already mentioned, on average, and I stress on average, customers experience a power cut once every 2 years that lasts 26 minutes. That's on average. So if you think that network reliability is one of our priority areas, what is it that we should be looking at? Should it be the number of interruptions? The duration? So in terms of how quickly we respond and how quickly we restore power? Or should we be looking at those worst served customers? So on average it's 26 minutes, but some customers have got much longer power cuts and more frequent power cuts. Should we be focusing on those? Or should our focus area be more on power quality, the dips and flicks and that kind of thing? So that's network reliability. The second area is network resilience, and this is the kind of resilience to severe weather. When strong winds blow or snow falls and we get ice building up on our assets, they can lead to failures. But what we can do is try and mitigate against some of those failures. As an example, when you look across the last 12 months, we had what we call 10 exceptional events. And you think 10 exceptional events? That doesn't sound exceptional, but this is guided by a rule set that Ofgem have determined where an exceptional event is based upon the number of faults being greater than 8 times the daily average. So on 10 occasions over the last year, we had that situation arise, and that impacted 250,000 customers. We could be doing extra to try and reduce that impact when we have that severe weather. We could be building more flood defences around our substations, or we could be doing more tree clearance so the trees don't fall into lines when the wind blows. We then consider cyber resilience. Now this, I'm sure as you're aware, that it's all about defending our systems from IT-based attacks. And there are some significant attacks that have happened, and the number of attacks, attempted attacks, is increasing. You may all remember the WannaCry example that affected quite a number of organisations last year, especially the NHS. So we're conscious that there is more and more activity in the cyber world that's trying to attack our systems. So we're improving and enhancing our cyber resilience. But where should we prioritise this? Should it be about protecting our network operations to make sure the network continues to function? Should it be about protecting the data that we have about our assets? Because there's a lot of data about assets. Or should it be about protecting customer information? You've heard mention of the DSO, building a smart network. This is where we now have to manage more and more different types of energy flows on our network. Previously it was all top-down, whereas now we've got two-way power flows, we've got generation connected to our network, we've got more storage connected to the network, so we're going to have to be operating the network in a more dynamic fashion. And we've developed strategies, I've got a DSO strategy that gets referred to in a later session, and we've also implemented things called active network management, where we are rolling that across the network so that you've got more flexible ways of operating. So if this is your priority area, then what should we be focusing on? Should it just be looking at managing those power flows at a local level? Should we be looking at trying to accommodate more demand growth? Because there are forecasts of significant increases in the amount of EVs that will be connected to the network, electric vehicles, which then themselves will require charging, will mean that somehow we have to balance their power requirements with all the other power requirements in the generation that's available to us. Another area is, should we be focusing on flexibility markets? This is where we look to using third parties to provide us with either a ramp down or a change to the way that they operate so that we can manage the network without having to carry out expensive investment. Looking at innovation, we do quite a bit of innovation. We're proud of the innovation that we carry out, but should we be doing more? In what areas should we be focusing on with our innovation activities? Should these be focused on our operational activities, so in terms of looking at enhancing our operational efficiency? Or is it looking towards wider things like whole system coordination across the transmission system, across gas systems, or across other energy vectors? Should we just be focusing on learning from others? Or should we be doing the innovation ourselves? So these are the kind of things to consider if you think that innovation is one of our high priority areas. I mentioned whole systems. This is all about not just looking at the distribution part of the network and the electricity distribution part, but looking across how what we do can help the energy system as a whole. And it could be that it's coordination with transmission, electricity transmission, or it could be that we coordinate with gas networks and somehow coordinate the overall energy provision between ourselves. Or maybe we have to then think about wider energy, such as fueling cars and things like that. Electric vehicles could be your priority area. We've already had mentioned electric vehicles around the table that I'm on. At the moment, we forecast that we estimate there's about 28,000 vehicles in our region. And that's forecast to increase to 3 million by 2030. So when you look at the price control period that we're looking at building our business plan for, there is significant growth in electric vehicles predicted. Now, all of those electric vehicles need power. They need to be charged. So therefore, the amount of capacity on our network will potentially have to grow significantly. So it's a case of, well, how do we provide that? Do we provide that through traditional means, or do we do it through more flexibility approaches where we try and maximise the utilisation of our network? But the kind of things that we should be considering, is it that there are maybe different types of charging? Will it all be slow charging, where you just plug it in and let it trickle overnight? Or is it that customers will want to have fast charging ability to be able to boost their batteries very quickly? Should we be looking at ways of controlling charging behaviour? Should we have the capability to be able to change the way that vehicles are charged so that it doesn't affect the network, so therefore we keep the network charges down but still give customers the amount of charge they need for their electric vehicles? Under the environment, and to be clear here, when we're talking about environment here, this is WPD's impact on the environment by the activities that we carry out. We've been making improvements during EP1 by looking at our business carbon footprint, but there are further things that we could do. We could do more on our own vehicle emissions, because we have lots of vehicles that travel around the area doing all the various different elements of work that we carry out. And we also have assets that potentially pollute the environment. We have cables that have got oil in them, and we've got items of switchgear that have got gases in them that are potentially damaging to the environment. So should we be doing more about controlling the leaks there? On workforce resilience, this is about having the sufficient people with the right skills. Now, as we move to a world of DSO, the kind of skills that we're going to require are going to change. We're still going to have to carry out, as Alex said, the traditional activities of repairing and looking after the network, but beyond that, we're going to need new skills. People that can deal with flexibility markets, people that can understand the complex requirements of being able to manage the different transitions and flows of network, of power across the network. So when we're looking at workforce resilience, if that's your priority area, then what should we be considering? Is it just the age demographic of our staff, or is it the increasing demand for technical skills? Should we be looking at greater cross-company coordination? Or should we even be thinking about building national training schools? Vulnerable customers. Now, when we talk about vulnerable customers, we talk that they're vulnerable to the loss of power. So this is where you may have somebody who is dependent upon power because of some medical equipment that they've got. It could be that it's the elderly disabled that may have stair lifts and those kind of things, so they're going to have the kind of vulnerability to it. But we also have situations where people are temporarily vulnerable. It could be people that come out of hospital or people with new babies, so therefore they may have a greater reliance on electricity at certain parts of their lives. Should we be considering doing more for those kind of situations? Is affordability your priority area? You've heard about the bill is around £100, £92, 27 pence a day, and we do quite a lot of investment with the money that we get. Now, should we be focused on trying to maintain those costs as low as we can, or given that we've got quite a lot of pressure on having to build more networks and ensure that we've got the capability to provide the capacity for electric vehicles, should we be looking at potentially putting forward cases for a progressive increase to those charges, but still making sure that they are affordable? Connections could be your priority area. Under connections, at the moment, we provide about 50,000 quotes a year for new connections. And then of those quotes, we end up having about 20,000 real jobs that lead to active new connections to the network. If you're involved with connections, what is it about the connection service that we provide that is important to you? Is it the speed with which we respond? Is it the timeliness with which we provide the actual connection? The range of options, the information we provide, what is it about the connection service that you would like to see improved, if that's your priority area? On fuel poverty, we have got various different initiatives with various different organisations where we proactively seek to assist people that are in vulnerable situations, who have got a fuel poverty situation. Now, we don't directly deal with them. We have a third party that helps ensure that they can have a sustainable saving to their lifestyles. Should we be doing more here? On customer service, Paul put up the stats that we're very, very proud of. That we've been number one now for the last 7 years, and we want to continue to be number one in terms of customer service. So if you think that we are lacking in that area in any way, what is it that we should be improving? Is it the types of contact we make, the quality of information we provide, our website presence, our social media interactions? What is it about the customer service that should be enhanced?